Hi everybody, good to see you again. So my composite chart course begins January 20th. So you're going to be seeing me a lot in the next few weeks as I round out a lot of my composite chart explanations. So we will have those at our fingertips. We'll have a library of those to look into to help us understand what the different planetary combinations mean and how they manifest in a composite chart. So if you're interested in joining the course, the link is below, or you can find the information on Facebook or Instagram or my website. And we will be looking at how the composite chart is structured, why it works, what it means, its place in compatibility, it's kind of the king. And we will be looking at a lot of the composite charts that we looked at the synastry charts in the synastry course. So we looked at a lot of really interesting couples, a lot of contemporary couples, and some classics as well. And we will be referring to a lot of those charts in the composite chart course. So it'll be a fun one. Sign up below. So let's talk about Mercury-Neptune aspects, specifically the sextile and the trine in the composite chart. They're very similar. I usually talk about quintiles and biquintiles and noviles and binoviles and sextiles and trines in the same because they're very similar. Aspects that are similar to each other, I tend to put into the same interpretation for the sake of efficiency, but I will point out the differences when they do exist. So with sextiles, there's always an intellectual affinity, and with trines, there's a comfort and a familiarity, and both of them contribute to an ease of how things either are working within us or working within a relationship if we're looking at a composite chart. So when we're looking at the sextile, we see a real affinity here between the way the two people think and communicate and what they communicate about and their unspoken intuitive understandings of things. So we don't tend to make the mistake of assuming things that may not be true with the hard aspects. We make the assumptions with the sextile that are probably true, that are really based on correct observation and interpretation of each other. They're not based solely on idealism or assumption or mistaking somebody for something they're not. We see things more clearly with sextiles in particular and trines. So there's a lot of unspoken understandings. The unspokenness of Mercury-Neptune aspects with hard aspects tends to lead to disappointment and heartbreak and confusion. The unspokenness, when we have the more clear aspects, the easy aspects, is something that leads to a type of harmony because we don't have to spell things out. We don't have to explain everything, and we know that the other person is going to get us in the right way. We have a history of seeing that they interpreted us in a correct manner, and we really don't have to worry about outcomes. We don't have to worry about how somebody is going to think about us or respond to us. So there's a type of trust that can build based on seeing how the other person has seen our demeanor, heard the inflection of our voice, read between the lines, observed our body language, and they have come to the right conclusion about us, and we can trust that. There is a
a heightened intellectual understanding between the two people of the spiritual world or the unseen. We can talk about those things. We can communicate about the things of Neptune in a correct or clear way. And even with the sextile, in a way that actually is something we can use. We can put some of that Neptunian conversation into practice in our life. With the trine, we have the ability to correctly interpret each other, and it's even more elevated than with the sextile. With the sextile, we have more, I'd say, open communication and checking in with each other and talking about the things of Neptune, just idealism, spirituality, how we'd like to see things in the end. There's less conversation in general with the trine and more unspoken understanding, an agreement about those things. There's more silence between the two. We can share a lot of understandings and agree about a lot of things without even openly having a conversation about that. There's just a lot of, oh, you see it, I see it, you get me. We're correctly interpreting what's not being said. It doesn't lead to the types of confusion and misunderstandings that we see with the hard aspects, because with the hard aspects, we are more likely to be projecting ourself, our inner life, what we don't know that we don't know about ourselves. There's a lot of projection in general with the difficult aspects. With the sextile and the trine, we're not coming from that place of inserting our own self or our ego into the mix, and then that becomes really the prism that everything comes through. These are very sweet aspects to have. These are aspects that can lead to a lot of agreement about the big things in life. Agreement about life and death, the meaning of life, what is behind the scenes, the cosmic unpacking that we want to do. We may not spend a lot of time in conversation about that. It's just kind of lovely how we can learn something or know something and have this faith that the other person is vibing on the same plane that we are. So if these aspects, either the sextile or the trine, are in a composite chart that has a lot of sugar, that's a lot of Neptune, a lot of idealism, a lot of toxic sugar, because sugar in too high amounts is not healthy. We want to have a sprinkle of it. We need enough Neptune so we can blur the lines, so romantic love can happen. We need to see past some of the sharp, pointy parts, at least in the beginning of the relationship. It's a part of the biological hoodwink of mating. Neptune has to be there. So we want to look at what kind of Neptune, the level of it, how is it operating? Because Mercury-Neptune aspects can be very devastating to a relationship. I would say any of the aspects between the inner planets to Neptune in a composite chart can all have their unique heartbreak associated with them. with Mercury, Neptune, the difficult stuff we can see is deceit, lying, miscommunications, assumptions. And if we see those themes in a composite chart, and then we see even these easy aspects, we're going to want to look at it in terms of weight. Now, we can have some difficult things happening, but we will have some moments, even with a very difficult composite chart, we can have some moments of clarity. We can have some instances of really understanding each other and not having to communicate what it is that we're thinking or feeling. We can get some of the really good stuff out of these aspects. They will be operating, but it can contribute to the weight of idealism in a bad way, because we can have these instances of having the ability to, in some cases, read each other's minds. We're reading between the lines. We're taking everything in that's not verbal communication. So we can have these instances of being correct about that. And that might actually, in a more toxic, sugary composite chart, that might actually help us to stay there longer or invest in that relationship longer than we should, because sometimes we're getting it right. And in a lot of other places or other instances, we may not be. So we want to look at everything when it comes to aspects of Neptune. I always reiterate that in these videos, that even with the easy aspects, you have to look at it in terms of weight and potential outcomes. So, hope this was helpful. Hope to see you guys January 20th for my new composite chart course. And I will be seeing you guys very soon.